Hello and welcome to my System Shock Remake weapon tier list. So this tier list is going to go over all of the weapons in the game for the highest difficulty settings. Now this is based on one completed playthrough on the highest setting, and I have like 3 or 4 save files that are like almost halfway through. So I definitely don't have perfect information, but I have a pretty good feeling for which weapons are good, which weapons aren't. And one of the weapons I did not get, and you get it way late on in security, so I'll touch base with that, but I've used all the other weapons outside of that. Alright, so let's start with the wrench. The wrench is a slightly stronger version of the pipe, and is mostly just used for ammo conservation in the early levels of the game. And after, I would say, medical, you really shouldn't be using this, so I'm going to put it in D tier. And the same thing with the pipe. I think these are okay to use for ammo conservation early, but outside of that, that's really the only use case for them, is just conserving ammo on medical. And even then, you can also just use the spark beam to do that in energy recharge stations, but it's just better. So there's really no use for these long term. Early on there kind of is, just until you get the spark beam, but they're kind of just outclassed by everything. All right, the rapier. Now, I didn't experiment with this enough, but it seems like circle strafing really messes up enemies. EMPing enemies, obviously, the rapier would be good if you open with an EMP grenade and just whack a dude. Using Berserk to increase your damage, the Berserk patch. Using like the bullet time patch to close distance and circle strafe enemies. I'm going to put it at B. It could be higher. I need to experiment with it more, but for now, I'm going to put it at B. The Magnum, I think, is S. It has really good damage. It has good availability. You can get it on medical, and it has pretty abundant ammo mid to late game. And I found that just, carrying this, I was able to, get a bunch of headshots, have this extra weapon to leverage this weird ammo source that's seemingly abundant throughout the entire end game. And I think it helps carry one of my first playthroughs at least. It's pretty reliable. It does good damage. The upgrades for it, I think there's just one, but it increases damage, so can't go wrong with that. It just has one ammo type. It doesn't really need more than that, and it's very solid. The mini pistol, I think, is C tier. It's definitely better than these, but it's not that good long term. It has pretty poor damage. Now, it has similar damage to the Scorpion, which I'll get into in a second, but it basically wastes your early 9mm and Teflon ammo. And I don't think it's worth using at all, to be honest. Early game, I think you should just be using the spark beam. So I would just not even upgrade it, not even use it, just drop it, keep the ammo for the Scorpion. The spark beam is more than enough. The assault rifle, or no, it's pretty... Here, let's go to the Scorpion now. The Scorpion. I think this thing's S tier. It has an upgrade that increases damage. It uses the same ammo as the mini pistol, except it has a really good fire rate and it just melts enemies. One of the easiest combos to killing enemy bosses and mini bosses is to EMP them and then just unload a full Scorpion clip into them. It also can be used at range if you fire in bursts and tap heads, so you can use controlled fire. But it just melts right through things with Teflon. And 9mm ammo is very abundant late game, and its damage output is very high, especially when compared to the mini pistol, which has quite poor damage output. The assault rifle, my experience using this is that it's good, but its ammo isn't as abundant as Scorpion or Magnum. So for now, I'll put it in A. It's a really good weapon. It's just that I feel like its ammo is harder to get. If it had more abundant ammo, I might move it up, but it's similar in terms of damage output to the Scorpion, and it does have a 3-round burst, and it's a little bit more accurate. It has similar ammo types. It has incendiary ammo as its base, and then it also has armor penetrating rounds. So, Teflon and armor penetration on both of these. Very reliable robot killers. So I would say it's at least A tier, potentially S tier. And then we have the Mag Pulse. Now, the Mag Pulse does really good damage to robots, and you can overcharge to deal even more damage. So you consume 2 ammo, you pump a second shot in, and it does scaled damage. It doesn't even double the damage, it does more than double. And it makes it very effective against robots, which is mostly what you're going to be fighting, so robots and cyborgs. It's not really good against biological things, but those aren't really the biggest threat in the game. but I don't really think it's worth the inventory space. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I could have just not gotten the upgrades on it and it just didn't pop off for me, but it is possible it is like an A tier weapon, maybe even an S tier. It seems to have potential as an energy weapon, but it doesn't seem to do that much damage to organics. Cyborgs and robots, it's got you covered, but I don't think it's like these will kill anything, right? Same thing with this. So these will kill anything. This will situationally be not as good against certain things, but mid and end game enemies mostly aren't biological. It's mostly robots that are the big threat. So you could argue it could go up. Shotgun. I feel like it's actually kind of weak. I feel like it's like B tier. Let me move this here. I think it's better than the Mag Pulse. I think now maybe with the upgrade it's better. I didn't get the upgrade on it, so maybe with the upgrade it's A tier. But in my experience, it just kind of felt like a weak Magnum. The range on it isn't bad, and if you get headshots with it, it can be okay. But it still takes like more pumps than I would prefer. Its base ammo, Flechette, does pretty good damage, and then the Inferno or the incendiary rounds, the Dragon's Breath or whatever, both kind of feel underwhelming compared to these. So I think B tier is fine for now. Maybe with the upgrade it's better. I would need to try it out with the upgrade. Proximity Mine, easy S tier. This is so broken. Like the Proximity Mine is so good in this game. All you have to do is just like whip them out against like Reavers or any boss enemy. Like any enemy that presents a huge threat, you hit it with an EMP and then just spam these. So I would save these for boss fights and then just spam them on the bosses, and it easily melts them. And you can throw them out very fast too, which is nice. It's like unlike grenades where you have to like kind of draw it back and then throw it and aim it. You just throw it out like a little disc, and it seems to have a faster throw rate. So very powerful. Don't use these on normal enemies, just kill them with basic weaponry, but this is very good at killing bosses, especially with slow-mo and especially with EMP. This can trivialize Reaver fights, especially like these two can trivialize Reaver fights with Teflon plus EMP, EMP plus proxies, slow-mo plus this or this. Any combination of those will trivialize those fights. Gas grenade feels kind of underwhelming. Maybe I just didn't get enough use out of it, but it does very low damage to robots, if any. I think it actually does like no damage to robots, but it does damage to cyborgs and organics. But the big threat in this game are robots and cyborgs. So, but it still does some damage, but its lack of versatility, it always just felt underwhelming. EMP, easy S tier. Completely trivializes every fight, including boss fights. Save them for boss fights. It literally disables bosses. It's so stupid. It's so good. Frag grenade, I think, is A tier. It's definitely not as good as proxy, and it's definitely better than these. But it's universal damage. You can cook a nade, throw it at the ground around a corner as a dude's chasing you. All the enemies chasing you. Pretty good damage. Pretty reliable. Can't go wrong. The grenade launcher. Now this does increase the damage of grenades and makes them detonate on impact, which is nice, but it takes up a ton of inventory space. And honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I'm putting it in C tier. It takes up way too much inventory space for my liking. If it took up less inventory space, I'd move it up. But the fact that inventory space is a big deal in this game. It allows you to carry more stuff to manually scrap it at the recycle center so you can get more credits, or it allows you to carry more equipment, more weapons for different use cases, or just more healing items, whatever. So having this thing that just eats up all your inventory space it hurts your economy, and it hurts your it hurts your ability to actually fight things, right? Because you're carrying fewer stuff, you can't recycle as effectively, you can't carry as much scrap, and that is an important factor to some degree. Now, if inventory space wasn't as much of a big deal, I would move it up. But like if you have all the 3 grenades, that's 3 inventory spaces, and this thing takes up like 2x4 or something, or 2x3. It's quite large. It might even be larger than that, but I don't think it's worth it. All right, so this one I didn't use a ton. The ion rifle. This is an energy weapon. I only used it for, I don't know, like 30 minutes or so, just kind of off and on. It's kind of like a semi-automatic spark beam rifle type thing. It seems like it's good. I want to put it seems like it's decent. I think it's like probably at least low A tier. So I'll put it here for now. All right, so this one I actually didn't use at all, but based on its stats and what I understand of it, it has poor availability, meaning you only can use it in the end game, and it's an energy weapon, but it seems like it could be good. So for now, I'm just going to put this in A tier. I need to run both of these more, but they do seem like they're good based on their damage value and their energy consumption rates. This one I used a little bit and it was fine. Both of these seem fine. They could be S tier. I'd have to test them more. Spark Beam, easy S tier. This thing starts off. So, all right. So on the medium mode, the high mode, you can 2-tap most enemies on the starting map, and it uses almost no energy. There's tons of energy recharge stations everywhere. And if you want to one-shot headshot or one-shot body shot dudes, use overcharge mode. And then once you get the upgrade on this thing for the damage increase, on overcharge mode, it 2-shots those like floating security droids, and it does huge damage, huge burst damage throughout the entire game. And as long as you're near an energy recharge station, you always have access to burst damage, and you can always use it on high mode with the damage increase for substantial headshot damage. So it never falls off. It starts off strong, and it just stays strong throughout the entire run of the game. Now, you might want to use the energy for different things, but you can't go wrong running this throughout the entire game. All right, the next is the Railgun. This is an easy S tier. This thing can headshot, one-shot crazy cyborg enemies on the late game stages, and just deals really good damage. And at the very least, what you can do with this thing is just open a boss fight with like a shot from this, and then switch to whatever else. So like shoot with this, EMP a dude around a corner, slow-mo patch, whatever, and then melt them with the Scorpion or the assault rifle, and then kill them. But here is the list for now. Some of these weapons I need to test more, so I'll be completely honest about that, like open about that. These two energy weapons, the Ion and the Plasma Rifle, I definitely need to play around with more. The Plasma Rifle I actually didn't get because it's hidden on security, which is one of the final stages of the game. But I could see its value because there are a lot of, crazy cyborgs and robots in the end game. So I could see both of these being S tier. I just need to test them more. I would put them at least in A because they seem like the stats and the damage seems fine. It seems there. For the laser up here, it could move up depending on tactics. I don't like it because I feel like just by virtue of using a melee weapon, you're exposing yourself to taking more damage. But if you use EMPs, if you use corners, if you shoot an enemy in the head and stagger them, now obviously most robots don't stagger when you headshot them, but enemies that do stagger, you could like shoot a dude, like tap them with a Scorpion shot. It doesn't even have to deal that much damage, and switch to this and smack them to like do that around a corner. Shotgun could move up with the damage increase. Mag Pulse could move up. This I don't think is ever going to get better. Its damage is low. The upgrades are trash. Like it goes from 10 to 20 ammo, which doesn't really help. And then it goes from, I think it gets a slight damage increase and then an optional burst fire mode. But the burst fire mode doesn't really do much. It's basically just a bad Scorpion. And the gas grenade could move up. The grenade launcher could move up potentially. I mean, I guess if you mainlined this, you have all these different grenades. The problem with the grenade launcher is that it's bad against basic enemies, though, because then you're just wasting grenades on like stupid enemies. And really, it excels in like boss fights and mini boss fights, I would say. So it's like one of those things where you can't really afford to spam grenades all the time. But it could still be valuable, obviously. Maybe it's something you throw in the convoy, not the convoy, your like bank thing, the cargo lift rather. All right, then these are just fall off. Honestly, I don't recommend you even have a melee weapon on you. You're better off just having an energy weapon and then ammo weapons, and primarily using your energy weapon when possible. So yeah, that's it for this tier list. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful. I will be beating the game a few more times on the hardest setting, and I'll be moving some of these around, but I think the S tiers I'm pretty confident in. They're very, very powerful. Some things might move into S tier, some things might move in A tier, but I think the D tiers are staying D tier. The C tiers, this might move up, this might move up. I'll have to play around with both more. This definitely can't. It's just limited by, the fact that it consumes Scorpion's ammo, which really you should just be conserving this ammo for the Scorpion, because the Scorpion's insane. It's really good. It melts bosses. It's so good. So yeah, that's it for this one. Peace.